On April 7, 2026, the American president issued an ultimatum. Iran had only hours to open the Strait of Hormuz or face the complete destruction of its civilization. This threat followed 50 agonizing days of active warfare that had already claimed more than 4,000 lives across multiple nations, pushing the region to the absolute edge. The conflict revolved around the Strait of Hormuz, a highly vulnerable squeeze between the Arabian Peninsula and the Iranian coast. It is the primary artery for global oil, with a fifth of the world's supply passing through this tiny gap daily. This blockade transcends a regional border dispute. It targets the foundational infrastructure of the entire modern global economy. As tensions peaked before that deadline, Allied forces launched targeted bombing raids deep into Iranian territory, aiming directly at the country's active nuclear infrastructure. The primary target was the Bushehr nuclear power plant. 4 bombs were dropped directly around this highly sensitive, fully operational facility. This diagram illustrates the catastrophic risk of those strikes. Because the plant sits right on the coast, a direct hit would send radioactive material leaking directly into the coastal waters, spreading rapidly on ocean currents. A single military miscalculation here would instantly create a generational extinction event, poisoning the regional water supply and wiping out all aquatic life in the Gulf. To understand how we reached that nuclear standoff, we have to look back 4 days earlier, to April 3rd. American officials were publicly claiming total dominance over Iranian airspace. That claim shattered when Iranian forces shot down an American F-15E Strike Eagle. One of the crew members ejected safely, evaded capture behind enemy lines, and hiked to an altitude of 7,000 feet. From that high vantage point, he managed to transmit a 3-word radio signal: God is good. What followed was a massive, high-risk extraction. The CIA launched a deception campaign, feeding false intelligence to enemy forces, while Navy SEALs and Delta Force teams rushed in to prevent an international hostage crisis. They successfully rescued the airmen, but the operation exacted a brutal toll. To prevent their own equipment from falling into enemy hands, the U.S. military intentionally destroyed 2 Black Hawk helicopters and 2 transport aircraft on the ground, while also losing an A-10 Warthog to enemy fire. While the extraction was a tactical victory, the massive loss of highly advanced equipment proved to the rest of the world that superpowers do not possess total control on the modern battlefield. This messy reality brings us back to the ticking clock on April 7th. With exactly 90 minutes left before the apocalyptic deadline expired, the 2 nations suddenly announced a 2-week ceasefire. The unlikely mediator who brokered a deal was Pakistan, leveraging direct military back channels to force both sides to the table. But within hours, that fragile peace was violently sabotaged. An allied proxy force launched massive, deadly strikes into Lebanon, claiming they were not bound by the U.S.-Iran agreement. Despite the ongoing violence, diplomats met in Islamabad for a grueling 21 hours, but the negotiations collapsed entirely. This chart shows the exact non-negotiable roadblock. America demanded a 20-year suspension of all uranium enrichment, while Iran countered with an absolute limit of 5 years. Achieving modern peace is nearly impossible when rogue proxy actions and hardline nuclear demands constantly override the mutual desire for survival. When the talks failed, America immediately retaliated by launching a complete naval blockade on Iran's primary oil export hub at Karg Island. This created a double blockade inside the strait, sending disastrous ripple effects through the economies of neutral nations that rely heavily on the safe passage of commercial vessels. On April 18th, that economic damage became physical. Massive Indian supertankers carrying millions of barrels of oil were violently intercepted and fired upon by hostile gunboats. Despite being a major global economy, India's leadership was largely powerless to secure their own vessels. They were forced to repeatedly request waivers from the American government just to maintain their basic energy needs. In a direct clash of superpowers over critical supply choke points, choosing to remain neutral offers absolutely zero protection from economic devastation. This conflict continues to escalate erratically. Regional actors are passing draconian new death penalty laws, borders are closing without warning, and the world teeters constantly between temporary ceasefires and explicit nuclear threats. If this standoff proves anything, it's that we exist in a violently fragile global system where the institutions built to protect us can be paralyzed overnight. When global stability is this volatile, the only true leverage is the speed at which you can process information and react. Whether it's a nation navigating a blockade or an individual navigating a shifting market, those who process complex data the fastest are the ones who survive the fallout. That is exactly why I built the AI Masterclass. It's a critical tool designed to build your personal resilience by teaching you how to process massive amounts of complex information instantly. In a 3-hour live workshop, you will learn to master over 30 different AI tools. You'll be able to condense hours of deep research, data analytics, and content creation into just minutes, all without writing a single line of code. The tools we use to understand the world are shifting just as fast as the front lines. Mastering these systems is the difference between being paralyzed by the chaos and being the one who makes sense of it.